All right, so we're going to do data warehouses. And there are several steps that we need to do for this. One is we need to actually create the data warehouse. And we'll talk about this in a moment, but data warehouses are different than the relational database. You know, they're designed differently for different efficiencies. So the relational structure is different. It's a bit of a pain, and there are lots of different theories of how to do this, but we'll use the common one called the star one, which I'll show you in a moment, the star layout. Here they come again. And then once we've created the data warehouse, used to be able to see them when and we used to have labs upstairs where you could have windows. Yeah.
For my apartment, I can see them.
So the second part of this is we'll use SSIS to populate the tables, which is a much more complicated import job than what we did earlier in the quarter. All right, so it'll take us, I think this will take a couple of days, and that says T instead of 2, but we'll do that. I think next week. I mean, we'll see. We might start it today. It depends on how long this takes us creating the data warehouse. And then what we'll do is we'll create the cube. The cube is basically a multi-dimensional analysis. And what a multi-dimensional, what they mean is you can have multiple variables interacting at the same time. If you're only using like 2 at a time, it's very much like a pivot table. But you can get, like date, and you can have like 4 or 5 variables interacting in it. Theoretically, anyway. One of the things that they want to do that we won't be able to is that typically they you can export this all to Excel if you want it, and they often suggest that you do that, but we're going to create it in the analysis thing. The part I think that's been delaying me from getting this to work right is that you have to recreate all the dimensions that you created in your data warehouse and then attach the data, say that these are the data source for the dimensions. It still doesn't strike me why you have to recreate the dimensions, but that seems to be what you have to do. I could close the door, I suppose. Anyway, the short of it is I'm real confident on the first 2 parts. I'm a little rusty on the last one. I've never made it work quite right, but I think I'm close. And this weekend, by the time we'll do this, by the time we do it, I think we'll have it. And if not, you're all smart people. You can help me do it. The other thing that we need to do after that is then we can try to apply some of the other analytics. They have statistical patterns that you can apply to see if there's any kind of correlation. Now, our data is crappy, so we'll see what happens. Because it's all made up. Some of our people, wow, they're really going over, worked like 24 hours a day for 3 or 4 days, because of the way I randomly assigned the bus routes. So it'll be interesting to see if we find anything of real interest there, but we can look at the process of doing that anyway. So each one of these is a fairly complicated task, but there are quite a few jobs in this kind of thing, basically doing an analytics for companies to see if you can find patterns of consumer behavior and things like that. This is what Facebook and others do on a big scale. Our scale will be a lot smaller. Okay. So I'm going to do one other thing. I'm going to talk about, so when you do the data warehouse, I'll do it here first. what you want to do is you want to rearrange the tables into dimension and fact tables. Has anybody ever seen that or done anything like this? All right, so the dimension tables are tables that describe, tables that describe elements that are relevant. So they're mostly the fields that would describe. So if you have the customer dimension, it would contain their name, it would contain their hire date. I mean, all the information about customers. It's not that different from the customer one. You might have a purchase or a product one where everything is things that might have been separated into separate tables you bring back together, so that everything describing a customer, everything describing a a product or something is all together in the dimension table. So these are things that describe elements relevant to the database. And then the fact tables are where all your measurable things are, the things that you actually are going to want to get sums of and averages of, and facts that can be aggregated and counted and things like that. So the fact tables are where the actual measures are. Does that make sense? Kinda. The fact table also will have in it a foreign key for each of the dimension tables. So one of the most common ways to do this is to create what they call a star setup. And I'm going to do something a little bit weird because I'm trying to keep it on the film here. I'm going to get paint because we don't have tons of fancy things. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to draw this. So let's see if my finger will draw. Okay, so in the middle, you have your fact table. And then basically what you have are all around it. Wow, it's not drawing very good. All around it, you have your dimension tables. They all point to the fact table. I'll just put a D, 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 D. Isn't that a great drawing? So you have your fact table in the center, and then you have your dimension tables all around it. They look like B's, not D's. That's what they're supposed to be. Drawing with my finger has never been a very good. I've tried to do some of these art programs on tablets and stuff with the finger, but I can't. I really need a stylus or something. All right, so that's the star layout. There are other layouts, but this is one of the most common. It's a star basically because you've got things radiating from the center is sort of the idea. You with me so far? So I'm going to open up the management studio, and what we'll do is we'll start to create this data warehouse. There are actually multiple ways to create this. We're going to do it with just straight SQL. But in the business, the Data Tools Studio, you can actually create these graphically, but I think that it is much more complicated that way. And it's also harder to get the picture of what's going on. So we'll do it this way. Why does that take so long? I mean, the thing is, all of these machines now have more RAM, so they shouldn't be slower. They should be faster. So I'm going to not log in as John Doe. Do Windows authentication. And I'm going to maximize that, I think. So what we want to do is create a new database. And as I said, we'll do this in SQL because I think it's actually easier there. One of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little thing where we're going to use master. And then I'm going to do if exists. And then I'm just going to say select name from sys.databases. Where name, just going to break that so it's easier, equals, and we're going to call this Metro Alt DW for data warehouse. If that exists, we are going to, so begin drop database Metro Alt DW. Make sure it's DW, don't drop Metro Alt. And then end. And the reason I'm doing this is that when we do this script, we'll probably have to make adjustments. And the easiest thing to do is just to wipe out what you've done and do it again. It's easier to do that than to go and alter the tables and drop things and try to add the relationships and stuff back in. So I put this at the top of most of my scripts when I'm creating a database from script, because then we can just run the whole script and it'll just drop what's there and replace it with the new version. So I'm going to do go, and then I'm going to say create database Metro Alt DW. So if it exists, we're going to drop it, but then we're going to create it. So this is just sort of preliminary, but we need the database, right? Does that make sense? Sort of seen those before. As I said, this is because a lot of times I find that I forgot something or did something wrong. It's, as I said, it's easier just to wipe it and run it again. So the other thing, and this is really important, use Metro Alt DW, because otherwise you'll put all these tables into master. Now it's underlined because Metro Alt doesn't exist yet, right? We're just doing the script. The goes are important in SQL Server. I don't know that they'd be important in other things. In fact, I'm not sure that Go is actually a SQL word in other databases. But basically, if you don't put a Go between these two, you'll get an error that Metro Alt doesn't exist because it'll try to execute this before it's finished this. The Go basically tells it complete this task totally before you move on to the next. It separates batches. And I think in other languages, the semicolon has the same effect. But SQL Server ignores the semicolons. I don't know why they made that decision. It's an odd one. Yes, it does. As you notice, I never use semicolons here, so I have to remind myself to do it when I go. Now, you could put semicolons there. It ignores them. It won't substitute for the go. But it won't hurt you either. So if you want to keep good habits.
I saw something that had the goes with semicolons on the goes. Which was,
Strange.
well, it was a way to make it run in multiple places.
Yeah. What though? Most other databases would bulk it to go, even if it has a semicolon.
I think it was more of a 50.
Yeah. So I opened this so that I could look at Metro Alt. What do you think what do you think some of the dimensions that we should have? Now, the other thing is you can make multiple data warehouses based around different fact tables, or you can make multiple stars in a single database. We're just going to make one, but like if you have lots of different kinds of facts tables that you want to analyze, and that you would just attach the dimensions that are relevant to that fact table. So in a complicated database, you might have multiple fact tables and multiple dimensions around them, or you could create a separate database for each different fact table. Either thing has been done both ways. Any ideas?
So the fact would be like a table, whatever you want to.
So yeah, and I would do the dimensions first, but the fact table is what you want to analyze. It's going to have all the what they call the measures in it. Let's do start with employee. That's fairly easy. And one of the things, you could build a fact table around employee, but we're going to just use it as a dimension. And I'm going to say create table, because I think what we'll analyze.
You run each one by one, or just run it all?
What?
Did you run already?
I haven't run anything.
Oh, okay.
You can if you want. So typically, again, a naming convention for this is to put a dim in front of all the dimension tables and a fact in front of the fact tables. I'm going to create a key. Now, so I'm going to call it dim employee key. And I'm going to make it one. So it's going to be an identity. I am not going to put any constraints in these tables yet. We'll do it as alters later. And there's a reason for that. Because eventually, when we do the SSIS, one of the very first things we have to do is drop all the constraints. And then at the very end of the SSIS, we have to add them all back in. So it's easier to add them as constraints later. One of the things that they all, when you read about this, they say, go ahead and create another pseudo key rather than using the actual key. Because then we can actually put like employee key int. And if you want, you can do unique. Unique makes it something, I'm not sure I ever mentioned this in any class, but it's called an alternative key. It's a key that you're not using as a key, but it could be a key. And it actually will put an upside down key in the key thing, the keys, table keys folder, to mark it as an alternative key. But anyway, what happens is it's really just a unique. It means it's a unique field, so it's as unique as the identity. They say it's better to do this though for these business tables. I'm not entirely clear why. There was an explanation, but it didn't explain it that way to me. You look like you might have a thought.
Entries over time to be characterized when they're entered by their employee instead of fact.
Well, yeah, I think part of it is you might want to also analyze the employee key as opposed to this key. Although this is what's going to be linked to the fact table. So, other things we might want to know about the employee. So we might want so I'm going to open up employee. Probably their last name and first name. So if we wanted to look up something about a particular employee, And there should be a comma after that. And then I'm going to do their email. Now you could put, do we want their city? I don't think I care about their address. But I am going to do like their zip and hire date. I think that's in car 5. Yeah. I'm probably putting things in here we aren't going to use, but just to get the idea. And that's date. And then I'm also going to put a couple of things that actually come from other tables. I'm going to put their position name. And I'm going to put their wage, which is what? So we got position, employee position, and in that ones we have their hourly pay rate. I'm going to put their hourly pay rate there. Now, there's a couple of things in here. Again, if we were doing, and hourly pay rate is decimal 52. Does that make that needs a comma? Does that make sense to you? Basically, we're just putting everything related to the employee there. As I said, employee actually, because it has a couple of things that could be measurable, like their pay rate and their hire date. You know, there are some things that you might want to aggregate in this, but we're just, we're not going to do it right now as a fact table.
So why are you putting it in one table, like, although on the star layout it was like separate dimensions? So,
Well, this is the employee dimension, right?
Mhm.
And then we'll make like a bus dimension and a bus route dimension. And then the fact table will be the measurables, like the number of riders, maybe the, there's not a whole lot we can measure in this database, but the total
so
fares.
You group stuff in separate tables into a similar
Yes, so like everything, it's not uncommon. This is why we're rearranging it again for the analysis. All this employee stuff, it's spread across 3 tables, right? So, but we're combining it into one table, which makes it really interesting populating these dimensions. That's why the SSIS is going to be complicated. Lots of lookups, lots of joins.
Worry about getting our next data because this is static.
This is static, right? So as I said, the first thing we'll do is drop all of the constraints that we're going to add, and then the second thing is we'll empty all the tables, and then we'll repopulate it. So basically, what happens when you have that SSIS is that you create this structure. It's static. It's removed from the live data, and then you create this package, this SSI package, so that whenever you want to repopulate it, you go and you get the live data and bring it over and refresh the data warehouse. Now, that's typically how it's done, because usually the analysis tools would slow down the database, so they don't want the production database to be directly analyzed. But it's not always the case. Sometimes, rather than create a separate warehouse for this, they'll create views in the database itself, so it's always live. But that does mean that your analysis tools are always going against live data, which can be it can change while you're doing it. So it can be a bit of a problem sometimes. Does that make sense? And there are some debates whether this is the best structure, but it's what they've been doing for a while. And it doesn't always work with, this, again, this is for relational data. It doesn't always, sometimes in the SSIS, which is again the next part, it gets really complicated because you'll create these from the relational data, but in the SSIS, you may also bring in data from flat files and documents, and it may just, you know, your ultimate data warehouse may be much more amorphous than many data sources. We aren't going to do it that complicated because I think that the basic idea here is complicated enough. These tables, these dimension tables, will violate every instinct you have about relational databases. They make it hard. I mean, it's a different paradigm, and it's for a very different purpose. So, but yeah, it's not live. So that's one of the things. Since it's not live, you don't have to worry about the relational integrity as much, you know, because you're controlling what gets copied to where. So I'm doing a go there. Any questions on that? Anything we left out that we should put there? Now the position data assigned we could add. And actually, again, I was going to analyze the bus assignment stuff, but if we were analyzing the employee, the hire date, the position date, all that stuff would be relevant. And we could do that. It's a different cube than I was imagining, but yeah.
So this, I guess this is being not super interesting in every detail, right? So can we just be sure that we can
Sure.
you know.
Do you need one now?
No.
No.
I just like.
Well, so I'm actually thinking this is going to go across 4 or 5 days. It may take less time, it may not, I don't know. Well, right now we're just going to create these tables, and depending on how long it takes, that might be the goal for the day. What other tables do you think? So we've got employee, create table, dim. So when we look at the things, do we want the bus itself? We could. I don't know what that will use everything. Let's create a table called dim bus as opposed to a smart bus. Yeah, the short bus. All right. So in the bus, we'll do a dim bus key. Int identity 1, 1. And then we'll do the actual bus key. Int. And we can make it unique if we wish, which will make it an alternate key. Do we care about the barn that it's in?
Can you remind me again what the values in identity?
It just is auto number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what this is where do you start and what do you increment by? So you could start, like if you were doing receipts, you might not want to start at 1, you might want to start at 1,000 or something like that. And then you can increment if you want. I don't know why you would want, but you can count by 5s, you can count by 10s, you know, whatever you want to count by. I'm going to do the bus purchase date. Which is date. And as I said, I'm not sure if we want the bus barn. We might. Bus barn doesn't say anything about the bus much. We do want, go ahead.
Bus type.
We do want the bus type. So we don't necessarily need the bus type key.
Right.
Let's go down and get the bus type description. We might want the capacity and the, you know, the other things there. So probably the bus type description. Which I think is in VARCAR 255. These don't have to have the same names. And I'm not going to do the miles per gallon, but let's do the price. Part of what you'd have to decide on these, and there's a thing that ties, say they're tied together. So when we do the, when we populate these, we will have to do the joins to make sure that all the data is in the belongs to the together. I'll lift it up here in just a moment. What did I do? I did 12.2. And in the decimal, if you use it, the first number is the total precision. And the second number is how much is to the right of the decimal place. So there will be 12 total digits possible, 2 of which will always be to the right of the decimal place. There's a money data type, but as a lot of you know, it uses 4 decimal places. Which I'm not sure why.
Wait, you have it again, there's 12.
So there's 12 total digits is the precision here. And 2 of them are to the right of the decimal place.
Oh, okay.
So there'll be 10.2 is the basic breakdown.
You wrote bust, like, purchase price.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Was that a Freudian slip or just a slip?
Oh, bust, yeah.
Okay, so this actually also has some possible measures. So, I mean, if you wanted to do a different setup where we were measuring the capacity and the price, there are some measurable things here that we could do in a fact table if we wanted to, but we're just using it as a dimension right now. Yeah, no, I'm not sure. I don't think I have the data in there to do that because I just assigned how many riders there were per shift, which doesn't say how many there were on any particular bus at any particular time, just how many total riders for that shift. So I don't have the actual. Yeah. So yeah, you'd have to have, and they actually in the real bus systems do track that. They track when you get on, that, when you tap your car. Well, I don't know if they track when you get off. They just track when you get on.
You could do like an average of like.
You could do an average, yeah, you could probably do something. So if you had like 150 people in a shift over 6 hours, the average 6 into 150, make it 180, 30 people at a time.
They might have like facial recognition cameras, so every time that it recognizes that it's a face, it counts as one. So if it sees it like leaving.
I don't think they bother that, but they do record all the taps in. Yeah, well, and then on the light rail and on the, typically on the light rail and the sounders, you tap on and off.
Yeah.
So they do have a record of that. Yeah, well, they only check, like I ride the sounder, like once every other month they check your tickets or your fare. And I only one time ever on the light rail have I been checked. So, which means your odds of not paying are really good, but then they get mad if you don't pay and they do check.
get check. Okay, got check.
I think they do it kind of randomly. I mean, I think that the fair people jump on randomly at different stations. And I think probably on the sounder too, they're doing the random cars. I'm not sure they're checking everything. They're just checking a car or two each time. And for whatever reason, they never get to the car I'm on. Not that it matters. That's not really relevant to this, but it would be interesting. I mean, you could do an average. There are ways you could do some things there. All right, so we've got the dim bus. I want to do the route, I think, too. And how do you know which ones to do here? I think I guess you would have to have some pre-idea of what it is you're going to analyze. And maybe if you're working for a company or something, they probably would have some fairly specific things that they want to look at. But you know, for me, it's been just trial and error. And as I said, there are probably different ways you could do that. Some of them might actually be more beneficial, I don't know, than the way we're going to do it. But anyway, I'm going to create another table. Dim route. And for the route, so I'm going to look over here what we got in the route. We basically just got the bus route key and the bus route zone. I'm not sure if there's a whole lot. I mean, I suppose we could get the stops to go with the route, but I'm not sure. I think that's a different thing. I'm going to just do dim bus route key. And then I'll do the actual bus route key. And we can make it unique. And then the bus route zone is the city. There's actually 5 of them. I think there's only 4 cities, but there's 5 zones because some of them cross cities. So I don't think the stops belong here, even because I don't know. Do you think? I'm just going to leave it like that. We could, except I'm not sure I care about the bus stops for this. I do, I think, want most of our facts are going to be for the assignment, but I think I also want a dimension for it. So I'm going to create table. So dim bus schedule assignment, or how about just dim bus schedule? We could do assignment if you want. Do you want? You do want? All right. So it just makes really big. So like all of these, I'm going to do an identity 1-1. I'm going to do the actual bus schedule assignment key. I'll make it unique. We do want, I think, the Do we want, we do probably want the employee key. I'm not sure about this actually. Because usually you don't make relationships, so I probably won't make it a foreign key. We definitely want the date. Do we want the date? I'm actually not sure we want those. I'm trying to remember what I want here.
Kind of the only unique thing about the schedule assignment.
What?
It's kind of like the only unique thing about the assignment.
Yeah.
is the date.
Well, it's actually not unique because there's like 3 per day.
I guess it's like the only thing that's in that favorite assignment.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we want the, I'm not sure we need the employee key. No, we don't need the bus. We might, because I said we may remake this. Let's leave that out for right now. I will look at this and think about it. It's a little bit, our fact table is actually going to be the schedule assignment thing.
But maybe shift key you need or
Shift key we probably do want.
What did you say the assignment is what? The actual assignment you said?
Yeah, well, the actual fact table will be the assignments. I'm going to say shift.
Isn't bus driver
I'm actually
shift?
going to do the shift name.
Oh, okay.
There's a table with the shifts.
Mhm.
I might or might not want the date in here.
Do you need a, oh, you don't need a bus key? Because the bus schedule.
We have the
assignment-
bus, we have the employee.
Okay, so you don't need the bus key to connect it?
Connections actually all happen through the fact table.
Oh, okay.
As I said, let me think about this one. We may have to adjust.
Okay.
I've done this like 8 times, but I
fine.
still keep
Yeah.
fighting with it, particularly this one. Before we do the fact table, I am going to do one more really important dimension table, which I'm going to call create table dim date. So usually one of your most important dimension tables is the date. I'm going to create a dim date key, an int, but it is not going to be an identity. Typically what they do is they take the date and they do it as like, say 2012, say it's the month is 7/07, what is today, 30? 07/30. And they just do that all together as a number, no slashes. And typically the dim date key is done that way. One of the things that we'll do probably next week is write a function to take the date and convert it into that kind of integer. There isn't a built-in one. So that's typically what they do with the dim date key. And then they will do the dim bus schedule, actually not dim, just bus schedule assignment date. And which will be a date. And in this case, we'll make it unique. So it'll be the alternate key. All of these tables have like an alternate key. And we will probably want the year. What do we want to call this? Schedule assignment year? You want bus schedule assignment year?
Then it's kind of-
If we do that, I mean, it's consistent. It's just really
Yes.
big words. Bus schedule assignment year.
Does the date key have an identity to it?
No, it is not an identity. Bus schedule assignment month. I hate these really big. I don't know if we need day, but we could do it. Day. And then I'm going to do, if we want, bus schedule. Oh, this is really big. Do I really want to do this? Because it's going to be day of week.
Do it.
Give me D-O-W.
We could, yeah, whatever day of week.
Oh, day of week.
There's a built-in function that'll return the day of week. And it'll return it as, I think, if this doesn't work, we might have to change it. Invar car. I'm just going to say 30, but I'm not sure what the actual size is. 30 should cover any day of the week. But there's actually an assignment, a function that will do that. It'll return the day of the week. The only thing, I know that it went in my random loops, I tried to make the traffic on weekends a little less than the traffic on weekdays, and who knows, maybe we can analyze that. So that's, I think, all of the date. So we got date, year, month, day of the week. If you look online, there are some versions of these. Again, if you're into more of a business thing, that also break it up into quarters, you know, and break it up into fiscal years and things like that. So, but basically, usually you're trying to compare everything against some kind of timeline. So the time or date one is important. We'll see if I can make this work this weekend so I can use all of these elements. And then we'll do the fact table. And then if you want a break, that would probably be a place, because then what we do is we'll add all of the constraints. And we'll run it all and see if it works. So I was thinking the thing that we would analyze is probably the schedule itself, right? So I'm going to create table fact. I'm just going to call it bus schedule as opposed to the bus schedule assignment. And we could name all of these. They don't have to have the full names that they do, but that's all right. So one of the things that it will have is it will have, as its primary key, it will have the employee key. So I'm going to say dim employee key. What? No, this is the employee. It's these. This is these are going to be foreign keys and part of the primary key. Actually, I think we might have to go through and change a couple of things too for the things. I think we have to put not null. And then I'm going to do dim bus key int not null. Dim route key and dim, what else do we have? We have dim a schedule key, dim bus schedule assignment key. Yeah, and then the date key. Okay. So
What was the reason that we didn't make it?
Right, because I'm going to set up instead of being an arbitrary number, it's actually going to be the date. It's going to look like 2015-07 30.
So we don't want to increment past the.
Right, so we don't want to increment that. We just want to take
Oh,
the
right.
date and then turn it into an integer. And this again is what they consider best practice for whatever reason. I've been reading tons of these things, although some of it, like this is the best book I've found, but it's way back from 2005.
Oh, wow.
When you were talking about, not using foreign keys, you're talking about in dimension units, right?
Right, so they're all going to be foreign keys. I mean, the fact table is like 3/4 foreign keys. But remember that rather incoherent little drawing I did? Maybe you missed that at the start.
No, I saw
So
it.
the fact table is there, and then all the dimension tables are foreign. They're tied to the fact table as foreign keys. Now, one of the things that I was remembering the not null, we should probably on each of these that we're going to make keys, put a not null, because when we do the alt table, actually most of these others, because they're identities, that's not an issue. Yeah. But the ones that aren't identities, you do need to put the not null there, or when you try to assign a primary key, it'll say can't assign a primary key on a nullable field.
Like even something like this. Like,
No, only on the key.
okay.
All right, so there's a couple things, and we have to figure out what facts that we want to do. I think we probably want mostly like from the ridership. I think we will want the riders will be one of the things. I think we're going to want the fare. I'm just going to call it fair amount. And then, because then we can do things like multiply the fair amount times the riders, or, we can get total fares and things like that. And it is, why I made it money and the others are decimal, I don't know. But it is a money data type. And I need a comma. Is there anything else that we would really want to analyze about this? So these are the things that will be, basically we've got two fields that we can aggregate. Is there anything more? Some things that, some dimension fact tables only have a couple, some have a lot. If this had been more of a, a retail one, there tends to be lots of things to aggregate.
Like a financial firm.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing all sorts of different kinds of business products, like if you look at the examples online that they do with the AdventureWorks DW, so you got the product price, the sale price, the shipping price, you have all sorts of, and then you have those across multiple countries. So there's lots of things to calculate. There just aren't a lot in this database, but.
Do we get the fair implementation date? Is that something
We could, I was going to, when we populate this, we could put that in there. That wouldn't hurt. When we populate this, we'll have to do some of those calculations. That actually might save us I'm wondering if I can link that to the date one. it was a year. We could link it to the year,
Mhm.
but I don't think you can link it to the year because the year isn't a primary key. We'll see.
Should you do it as a separate field, like parent? Like how we put it down?
I think, is it just a date? We could do the year. Do you want to do the year?
Seems like it was easier to do that.
In which case it would be the int.
Because we have to do like date ranges for that piece.
Well, so actually, it's a start date, right? So, and I think they're all 1/1 something, so it's basically a year. That might save me, I mean, so what I did when I originally populated this, remember our view where we had to go through and figure out the year? That's what I did. It might be a little easier here. I think we might still have to do a case, but it might be easier to get it here. All right, so that is, I think, our warehouse. If you want, we can run this, but I'm going to add the all of the constraints. Do you guys want to do that now, or do you want to break? What? You're guys fine? All right, are you fine too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, so what we want to do is we want to add the primary keys and then the foreign keys. And the only thing about doing these as alter tables is they have to be done in the right order. And actually, and then when we drop them for this SSIS, we have to reverse the order. So I am going to, we'll do employee first. So I'm going to do alter table employee. It's dim employee. And then I'm going to add constraint. Constraint. And I will give it a name, and it's real good, important. So I'm going to PK dim employee. The type is a primary key, and the field is dim employee key, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to do this for each of the dim tables. So this would be dim bus and PK dim bus and dim bus key. I will post this script too if you guys need. And then we had dim, was it route or bus route? Is it just route?
Mhm.
Oh. Caps don't matter, but I'm trying to make it. Let's see, and then we had dim schedule assignment, bus schedule assignment. Okay, so, and then with the date. Oh, yeah, that's right. So I think we can do, oh, I copied that, so I need to recopy. Although I could type it again, I suppose. So this would be dim date. Okay, is that all the tables for primary keys? Except for if we want to do the primary key for the fact table. It could be, this would be fact schedule.
Fact bus schedule.
Did I call it bus
Yeah.
schedule? Okay, so whatever I called it. Dim K, PK, fact bus schedule. I'm trying to make the primary keys really obvious again, so it's not hard to think of what things you're going to be dropping later. Now, what we want in here, dim route key is all right, but I'm going to do dim employee key, dim route key,
So all of the new stuff.
yeah, basically dim bus key. I don't think it matters what order. Dim, it doesn't like dim bus key, why? I don't know.
Wait, what I said?
Sorry, I'm just trying to remember what tables I have. Dim,
So the primary key is just the name of the table.
yeah, I was just PK underscoring the name of the table. And then we want every dimension foreign key as part of this.
Schedule assignment.
So dim route, dim bus schedule assignment.
Let me see how that have to do that.
Oh, that's why it's not liking it. And dim date key.
Oh.
Okay, so that would be the primary key. And then we also have to make each one of these a foreign key. So it's a really big composite key. Right? And then we're going to do a foreign key for each of those. So it'll be, again, alter table. They'll all be alter table fact bus schedule. And then we'll add a constraint. And I'll call it FK. We'll start with employee. Foreign key. And we'll put in there, I guess I'll do for FK dim employee. Oops, not EM. Foreign key is dim employee key. References. Dim employee. Dim employee key. All right. And then I'm going to copy this and do it again for each of the dimension tables. So you're getting a refresher course in creating tables, and so this time it would be dim, I don't know, I guess dim bus, and then dim bus key, and dim bus. Copy and pasting can be dangerous if you don't make the changes. So this one is, I guess, dim bus route. Or it's just dim route, right?
Yeah, dim route.
Okay, they all have exactly the same pattern. It's just that we have to do it for all of them. And then, so I think just date left, right? I'll go through them again if you need, but it's just, as I said, they all have exactly the same pattern. I'll give you a minute. What we'll do next is we'll try to run this script and see if it creates the tables. We'll look at the diagram, and then we can decide if you guys want to go on to something else or wait. When you're done with it, if you want to run it, you can. If there's errors, we can check it out and fix.
Run the whole thing.
Yeah, so it should, maybe I'm going to put the cursor up by use master just to make sure that's where it starts. Execute. Column name dim route key does not exist. Yeah, so we could go through and look. So this is on line 86.
I think there was some that were called best route. I kind of wrote that down.
Okay, alter table dim route. Was it bus route?
I got metro off and Billy does not exist.
Dim date, dim route. But I did dim bus route key. Tell you what, just to be consistent, I changed it to dim route key because that's what I wrote down here.
Not supplying the primary key constraint on normal column because dim date.
Right, so in dim date,
Did not know.
yeah, you need that. Not null. I think I have not null on mine. Yeah.
I got all of them.
So one of the reasons why I did that top thing is when you have errors, you can see if you can fix it and then execute. And column name bus schedule assignment key does not exist. So a lot of these are just spelling errors.
Oh, so the identity ones have to have null next to them?
They shouldn't need it.
So if I ran it once with errors, should I run the drop database create?
Yeah, just run it all over again from the top.
Because it seems to not like me running the entire thing all at once.
Do you have enough goes? It should be okay. So dim bus schedule assignment. Dim bus schedule assignment.
Change dim route key to what?
I just changed it to,
Well, bus.
I actually changed it to dim route key as opposed to dim bus route key. Bus schedule assign, oh, I left out the in my assignment. Is that right? GN, all right? There we go.
And then Billy key is going to
So mine worked
post it? Because mine's telling me there's a million errors.
Yeah, I can post it. My errors and probably yours too are typos mostly.
So now I have to do alter on all of them, right?
Well, no,
Because-
no, just change it and then run it again from the top.
Change what?
Change where the mistakes
I got a
are.
million. I can't even, there's like 1,000 so.
Oh, you must have run part, so if you start from use master,
Okay. Execute.
and it still doesn't.
I don't know.
Do you have a drop database up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Natural alts. Oh, but you didn't name it. You didn't-
Alt,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, now if you run it from the top, it may clear at least that area. So now you're down to just dim route key does not exist, and I think it's because of what I did. I had it as dim bus key.
Where?
After the,
So back
Maybe
up
you
in
can
the
just
table
do-
where you have dim.
no. After that, that's it. Oh, thank you.
Right, so on the dim day, just say not null.
Or is it, oh, it's dim?
So inside the parentheses. Yeah, right there. So all you have to do is say
Can I find dim fact plus schedule?
So
And then I have to run it all at the same time.
On the nullable column table, what's the
So let's look at your tables down at the front table, the very last one.
Oh.
Oh. Okay. Which one?
The very last table. You just called it fact bus.
So dim, right?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Oh, I can just run it. I don't say.
So do you want this on the blog?
Yeah, because.
You're down there, you're down to just a couple of typos. But
Does not exist.
Oh, and then you
Yeah.
go.
so anything that doesn't exist means you just misspelled it or typed it differently.
Yeah, I think so. No, I think it's great.
dim schedule assignment?
Dim and dim.
Now find out the dim bus schedule assignment.
So I'm going to post this, but basically the errors that you're having are just typos. So if you go back to the table where the typo is, I mean, I had several too. So you can rerun it from the top as many times as you need. So you don't have to alter individual tables or anything. But I'll put the script up there.
I missed that dim, I guess it's because I'm not that cute.
But the existing. Okay. I need your help here. But that's
Dim, dim,
this dim employee and then this is dim employee. See, I just did this. Then I do this.
Go on.
So I published the script.
Let's see, column name dim employee.
91.
Column name dim employee.
Dim fact
Dim
plus.
employee, right? Here it's same. So now go back up to your other employee created table and see what do I have any?
Employee. So you have dim employee key. What is it not like?
Oh, you know what?
Oh,
I'm
it's
missing
dim
the
employee key
here.
here, dim employee key.
And it says dim employee key.
And then here.
Also key.
And the next one is key.
Let's go back down, yeah, because it may be that it's,
A little higher.
double click it and it should go to where to there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, fine.
Just double click real quick.
it's
So
right
it's
there.
there,
Yeah.
alter table. So is dim employee key in your fact table?
Oh,
That's right.
So just add it. Just
So-
dim employee key.
no, but,
If you have the thoughts.
We'll just copy paste it.
Yeah, it's here, but it's not in your fact.
but, all right. So dim employee key and then you just back table.
Right there.
Okay, and you put not null. You just put
Yeah,
not null.
do put not null. Just put it in there, make it not null.
Right.
I guess we can do break. I wonder, do I pause the video at that point?
Yeah.
Can it pause? That's a question.
Or, no, you have to go.
You
Go to
misspelled it.
make sure.
You
No, I just
misspelled
copy, I drag, copy, paste it.
See, because here it's spelled correctly. Dim plus plus on. Dim plus. Scott,
I'm not gonna pause it, so you guys are gonna have to, because there's no pause.
Oh, really?
There's only stop.
Good.
So you can have two videos, or you can have one video with a lot of dead space in it.
That's good.
Because it does not exist.
All right, so go.
It's actually
Oh.
dim fact bus schedule.
Right here,
So
this
when
should
you
be,
come,
right?
no, that's fine. So go down to the altar. This is from the altars.
Okay,
Did you have it?
So-
Assignment.
These all say fact bus schedule, right? But they should be dim.
Correct.
fact.
dim, all
Yeah,
these.
all of
two
them.
spelled
Oh,
right
okay.
and three spelled wrong.
Wrong. Oh, man, this is, I hate it too, like, every single time I have to do it, being employee, I have it.
I'm going to save this script, even though I just posted it, in case we need to alter it again.
There is already an object named PK dim employee, so why are you not
In
deleting the
database.
database, Jack? Paul?
Start the cursor at the very top for one.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you had stuff in, you wrote it into master.
I started at the bottom and the parents is not in front of the table.
Still, they don't like it to do it.
Once I fix that,
No, master. Yeah.
We're just gonna, where's
It's
the
Metro there,
database?
yeah, Metro out.
No, not Metro, we want to delete Metro alt.
They do.
Yeah, don't destroy Metro Alt.
Oh, yeah. But I don't have it.
Because if you do that, we are in trouble.
Where's SSID?
But yes, you could recreate.
Yeah, it's complete. Maybe you don't have to use them.
Yeah, I have the file in the.
Maybe it's. No.
How is there already an object called PK dim employee in the database?
And once you created the database and then inserted a whole bunch of information over time,
Yeah.
can you create a script on the fly like that like inserts it all?
Well, that's actually what we're going to do next with the SSIS. So it's a basically it's a repeatable package. So anytime you want to populate this thing, you just run it. So you should only have to make it once, and then you can, whenever you want to update your data, you just run that package.
But will it keep the new insert data?
Yeah, basically what it does, the script that we're going to create is it deletes all the data from the database and moves it over from the Metro Alt. So if Metro Alt has got a bunches of new data, it'll have all the most current data.
Yeah, okay, cancel.
Oh, cause
You could do it all with an SQL script, but the package thing is nice because you could actually
see how it says use Metro DW?
tie it
That's
to
why
No,
I can't do it.
because
schedule
you have to do the
and run it
XML stuff first.
Right,
daily
that's
or
why I
weekly,
didn't
however you often you want to update your.
It's, okay, so we have to do this. But
I don't know,
still,
I don't know how you
Oh.
have it, how you have a thing called dim employee. It must be stupid.
Oh, that's because your Metro Org is currently in use in another tab. You have to close all links to Metro Org.
I don't know why they do all.
So you're saying dim employee,
Employee.
PK employee. So let's go down here. What I suspect,
Oh, maybe I was thinking of different.
PK employee. You didn't make it a PK up here, did you? Employee.
Oh, here, oh, it's same thing, right? It's same for.
Oh, you did make it twice.
Oh,
These should be foreign keys.
this is holding key.
Right, but this has to be named FK or something. It has to have a different name than the
Oh,
one
so
above it.
that one is FK?
Yeah, so
Oh,
those
gee,
are
that's
FK. Yeah,
Oh.
the thing about keys
Gee,
is
yeah.
that everyone has to
PK
have,
and FK.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, primary key is only one.
right,
Yeah.
and keys have to have a unique name.
Okay, makes sense now. That's why copy paste is no good, huh?
Well, it's okay, but you have to make sure you change
Yeah.
everything.
Oh
If you
my
leave
God.
anything out, then you have a
Right,
mistake.
that's why I'm
How
like,
long is the break for?
I don't know,
okay,
I guess.
now, I can just start it from beginning to, execute it.
I actually probably wouldn't have broke right when we did.
Yeah.
Because there's only one tiny piece more to do with this. But if you need to go for a second.
No,
go ahead.
I mean, I'm just gonna wait.
I was just gonna make a diagram to show you what we did, and then we can talk about the next stage, but I don't know if we want to start it today or not. We have time, I know, but it's going to be complicated and long, which might be a good reason to start it now, but then to have a weekend between it.
Yeah.
How do you teach a speed of making Explorer?
What?
How do you teach the speed of making Explorer? I'm talking about.
Oh, ASP.NET, I'm not teaching it.
Oh, maybe
until
not teaching
winter.
impact.
Yeah.
And now they don't like FK, they just give us some information about the
All right, so the bus schedule assignment, it has to dim bus schedule assignment. Dim bus schedule. Oh, you spelled schedule assignment wrong. Down in the
Oh,
in the
EA,
form.
yeah.
Yeah, in the,
Oh,
When is registration for next quarter?
that's
What did
actually,
you
yeah, I think you can register now.
Now?
You've been able to register for a while.
Oh, okay.
The fall started Santa's.
Oh, okay.
Do you have more to
oh my
take yet?
God.
Yeah, I'm gonna continue until we're with programming because I feel like from what you were saying and everything, well, it's good to know more, but it's hard to get a job in database, you know?
It is, although there have been more of them lately. But yeah, it wouldn't hurt to have the programming too.
Right. Or I was, because I'm an alumni job, I might want to take some classes there. You know?
Do they let you as an alumni do it for low cost?
I'm not sure. That's why I'm going to go visit a counselor next week.
I think you can do it, but maybe not for credit.
Oh, okay.
That's what, I'm not 100% sure.
All right.
I know,
I know they don't transfer.
yeah, I can take classes there for $12. I wish I lived in Seattle.
Right.
My mom found out that she was sick of that.
Oh,
She can take classes here for $5.
Oh,
yeah, and I can take classes here for the same thing. The state if you work as a teacher at a state institution, you can attend schools at other, like I could go to the UW. There are conditions. You register after everyone else is registered, so if the class is full, they don't have to let you in. And I think you can get credit for it, though. I think they allow you to get credit. I would love, if I lived in here, there are classes at the UW and stuff I'd like to take. I do have UW library privileges too, which would be amazing, again, if I lived anywhere near them.
What's the other big one called?
The Susela, the graduate library. It has some nice stuff in it. My interests are fairly obscure, so it's hard to find, like classical languages and philosophy and things. And Suselo has a lot of that.
Yeah.
So.
let's get started.
All right, well, who are we missing?
So,
There's not a whole lot left to go, but
Yeah.
go ahead.
I'll be right after this.
No. Well, I'll give them a minute. All I was going to do is make a diagram to show what we did.
Yeah, well, it's been a couple minutes already. I hope they don't think the break.
It's recording, yeah. So you guys know how to make a diagram, right? Yeah, you go into the database. So actually, you probably have to refresh over here. And on the databases, I will refresh. Otherwise, you probably won't see Metro Alt DW. There's Metro Alt DW. There are the tables. And if I right click, not there, on database diagrams, new database diagram. Yes, I want the stuff. Yeah, so you just add everything.
Didn't you essentially do this with the database based on how you set up your quantities?
So we didn't even diagram.
Say again.
It only looks like a fancy database warehouse.
Well, so the naming conventions are usually dim in fact.
Right,
You
but I
had-
mean, the rules behind it, could you essentially do that with any database?
You could, right? Now, you wouldn't want to do this with your production database because it's not normalized in that way, and it'd be really hard to keep your data straight. But this is what they call, it's a structure for an OLAP. Have you ever heard of OLAP? Online Analytical Processing, as opposed to, what is the other acronym for, it's OLTP or something like that, Online Transaction Processing. So there's transaction databases, and then there's OLAP, which are analytical databases. And this is for setting up an analytical database. Now, theoretically, this will work. We have to populate it. It's empty, right? So we have to bring all the data from Metro Alt into Metro Alt DW. And that's a little harder than it sounds, but.
How do you add a key, like, do you have to go back into the code? I see that I don't have a key over here, and you do, the dim bus schedule.
You could actually do by dragging from dim bus
Set
schedule.
primary key.
Well, you don't want to set it as the primary key. You want to, it's actually a foreign key. So one of the things you could do you have the dim bus schedule?
You mean the code?
Yeah, well, back.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's fine, that's fine.
That should be, oh, you just didn't make it part of this.
I know, how come that?
So when you did the code, I don't know actually how to add it to that. So when we did the initial primary key, it just wasn't one of the ones you just didn't list.
Oh.
I'm not sure it'll make that much difference. The way to fix it is probably just to do the script and run it over again.
Oh,
But you'd
right.
have to close the diagram and then
Yes.
recreate it afterwards.
And you posted
I posted the code.
in the announcements.
No, I posted it on the blog.
Okay.
So I guess my question is, I tried creating a really simple database, and if I were to create a diagram, it would look a lot like this.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that means that it's not.
I would have to look at it. It depends. It's possible that you could create, your data could be in such a way that you have sort of a centralized table where everything comes together. Like in a,
It's like hotels, cities, and trips.
right, and
the
then,
centralized one is your itinerary.
right, the itinerary would have that foreign keys. It could look a lot like this. All right, so we have quite a bit of time, but it's up to you guys if you want to continue. So the one thing we did while you're gone is make a database diagram. So basically just do a diagram of what we just did.
Oh,
But
I don't think that worked. Your code.
should,
When
did you
I-
run all of it?
I ran all the add, and then it says dim fact bus no longer exists in the database.
My code should be, I'm pretty sure I just copied. Let me look at it real quickly.
I just copied his code. I erased one.
Let me see. Create table, create.
Yes. And when I did this, it wouldn't let me do diagram.
So maybe what do you ran to create the database diagram?
You might have to.
Like that? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, maybe.
No, refresh my. It's great.
I know,
Okay.
only spell.
No, wait.
Double copy.
So his should, if you ran this, it should be called fact bus schedule, not dim fact bus schedule.
Oh,
So-
I changed that originally.
So run it
You
again.
just created.
Okay.
Confused, yeah.
And it'll work, but
Yes.
when I make the tables, it'll say.
It's like, cool. There, so now refresh your methodology.
Okay. And then,
Now we get to this.
I know, but wait, add.
No, yeah, because it says fact bus schedule, and before it's saying dim fact bus schedule, so it's the wrong naming convention.
Oh, all right.
No, close.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. I think what I'll do, I'm not sure we want to start today, but I'll let you guys. What would we need to do to populate these things? Just logically. We have to get the data. I mean, basically, this one might not occur to you, but generally we need to drop all the constraints we just made. We need to delete all the data. So usually the way you do that is you truncate the data. Now, the reason we need to, there's no data in there, right? So you want to truncate the tables, get rid of the data. But what we want to do with this package when we actually do create it is it's something you want to be able to use over and over again. So however often you want to refresh your data warehouse, You could run it every night, or you could run it twice a day, or you could run it once a week, whatever you think you want, however often you want to refresh the data in your database. So we'll truncate the tables initially just because that's what the package is going to need to do, but they'll be empty initially. Truncate just deletes all data from the table. You can't do that if you haven't dropped all the constraints. All right, so then we need to populate each dim table. And the one that will be most challenging is the dim date. Okay. That's the one that'll be the most challenging to populate. What we'll do is we'll create a function and a view in Metro Alt to make it a little easier, because it's a bit of a challenge. The other thing that's quite a challenge is to populate the fact table. That's actually a pretty big challenge too. It can take a lot of wrangling. And again, the way we're going to do that is we're going to create a view in Metro Alt that makes it a little easier. And then you add back the constraints. Because you need them for the analysis. We have time to start this. My question is, if we start it now and then take a whole weekend to come back to it, how is that going to work? I mean, it might be better to put a whole class, and maybe even if we have to go over into Thursday to focus on it, as opposed to starting it now, coming back next week and trying to remember what we did. So, yeah, Thursday to Tuesday is a little less of a break than, I mean, it's essentially 4 days, right, between now and Tuesday. Mm-hmm. If you want to try something on your own, you can, but I mean, this SSIS package that we're going to create we'll do a lot of things that the earlier ones don't. We're going to do these with some SQL controls rather than data flow controls, where we just write the SQL in there. We will do, for each of the dim things populating them, we will do a data flow control where we get the source and copy it over. But for dim date in particular, we're going to create a function and a view, because it is possible to do it in the SIS, but I think working from the view makes the SSIS much easier. And the same with the fact table. The fact table is really complicated because you have to get data from Metro Alt and Metro DW. You have to bring it all together, and it's a bit complicated, so we'll do that. Adding back the constraints isn't a problem, except that if anything goes wrong with any of the rest of it, the constraints won't work. So I've done this, I've done the SSIS for this about 5 times now, so I'm pretty good at it, but it took me a long time the first time. And I want to walk you guys through it. I don't want to just, step by step, and I don't want to just, I kind of did this with the data warehouse, but unless you've seen a data warehouse, it's really hard to imagine what you would do, how you would set one up. We could, if we end up with extra time, we could do some different variations of the data warehouse to focus on the employee information or something. And we'll see how things go. But I think today, I'm sure none of you will probably complain terribly. We'll probably have an early lunch. And we'll start this on Tuesday.
What time do you want us to be back?
Well, given that we're leaving this early, probably 1-ish.
Okay.
Although I don't have a ton of stuff to do this afternoon either.
Okay.
We're going to do full text catalogs. I got rid of the other one because after I read the description of how to do it, we don't have the infrastructure to do it. You have to create a cluster first. And I don't know if you can cluster on one machine. Maybe. If I figure out a way to do it, we might return to it. We would have to do multiple installs of SQL Server. We have one extra, which I think is enough for us to do log shipping. But a cluster, usually you have like 3 or 4 instances of SQL Server, typically on multiple machines, not on the same machine. And they have to be identified as belonging to the cluster. And then you can do the things where basically what that other assignment was different ways of failover, so that if one of your machine fails, another one can take over, kind of thing. Which is real world, but it's just hard to set up with this kind of network. Yeah. Though I think you could do it. It does. You could kill a machine, but I don't think we have the RAM. I mean, they've added RAM, but even so, basically what you'd have to do is have multiple virtual machines with multiple installs. You can do that. Actually, Hyper-V is pretty good at that. You can stack virtual machines, and they pretend they're real machines. They have their own IP addresses and everything. But that would take us probably to a fall quarter to set up. And I don't know how well these machines would do with that. So anyway, I think we'll call it an early lunch. I might save this. I'm going to call it stuff to do. Okay, so let's stop recording. There's a lot of dead stuff at the end of the recording.